Ramanuja Dayapatram Jnanavairagya Bhushanam Srimadvenkatanathaaryam Vande Vedanta Deshikam Lakshminatha Samarambham Nathaya Munamadhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Yo Nityam Achyuta Padambuja Yugmarukma Vyamohata Staritarani Trinayamene Asmadguror Bhagavatosya Dayeka Sindhoho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye Mata Pita Yuvatayastanaya Vibhuti Sarvam Yadeva Niyamena Madanvayanam Adyasya Nah Kulapater Vakulabhiramam Srimat Tadangri Yugalam Pranamami Murdhana Bhutam Sarascha Mahadahvaya Bhattanatha Sri Bhakti Sara Kulashekara Yogi Vahan Bhaktangri Renu Parakala Yatindra Mishran Srimat Parankushamunim Pranatosmi Nityam. In Sanatana Dharma, we have a galaxy of bhaktas or bhagavatottamas whom we revere. Beginning with Kashmir till Kanyakumari in the south, from Gujarat till even Cambodia, we have had a galaxy of philosophers, bhaktas, some of them very well known, some of them lesser known, who have added beauty to this philosophical and theological system. Amongst these saint poets who have added glory to Sanatana Dharma, in the Bhakti movement, we have had the Azhwars, the mystic saint poets of Tamil Nadu, in the Tamil tradition, revering the Lord like no one else. Well, there is a beautiful shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam which goes like this. Kritadishu prajarajan kala vichanti sambhavam kalau khalu bhavishyanti narayana parayanaha kvachit kvachin maharaja dravideshu cha bhurishaha Tamraparni Nadiyatra Kritamala Payaswini Kaveri cha Mahapunya Pratichi cha Mahanadi Yepi Banti Jalam Tasam Manuja Manujeshwara Prayo Bhakta Bhagavati Vasudevalam Ameshayaha. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Shuka Brahman tells Parikshit, in the years to come, that is when Kali Yuga rises, when people are a bit confused, oh well, the atrocities in Kali Yuga has begun, that is when we will have the Azhwars. He gives it like a prophecy. He says, Kaveri cha Mahapunya, on the banks of Kaveri, Payaswini, on the banks of river Payaswini, on the banks of river Tamraparani, on the banks of river Kritamala, and so on, will be born great saint poets. Whom is he referring to? Well, he has mentioned that on the banks of river Payaswini, Paya is milk, Payaswini is that river which has waters akin to that of milk, because probably because of the foam that arose on the top of it, it looked like the river of milk. So in Tamil, this river is called as Palar, and on the banks of river Palar were born the Azhwars, namely Poigai Azhwar, Bhudatta Azhwar, Pei Azhwar, Tirumalizhai Azhwar. Then he refers to the river Kaveri. On the banks of river Kaveri were born Tondaradi Podi Azhwar, Tiruppan Azhwar and Tirumangai Azhwar. Then he refers to the Nadi, the river Kritamala, which is Vaigai in Tamil, which flows by Madurai. So, by the banks of it, at its proximity in Srivilliputturu, were born Periyalvar and Andal. Then he refers to Tamraparani, where on its banks were born Nammalvar and Madhura Kavi Alvar. And he refers to a nadi called Mahabhaga. Maha is Periya in Tamil. Bhaga is Aru. Periyaru is the river in Kerala, banks of which was born Kulashekara Alvar. So by referring to Payaswini, Kaveri, Kritamala, Tamraparni and Periyar, which is Mahabhaga, he has mentioned of Poigayalvar, Bhudattalvar, Peyalvar, Tirumalizhayalvar, Nammalvar, Madurakavialvar, Kulashekharalvar, Periyalvar, Andal, Tondaredipudiyalvar, Tiruppanalvar, Tirumangayalvar, and of course the one who gave us Ramanujanutrundari called as Tiruvaranga Tamudanar. So the galaxy of these Azhwars make up a number of 12 plus 1. That plus 1 is because Ramanuja is also treated as an Azhwar. The compendium of the verses sung by all these mystic saint poets in the Tamil tradition is called as Divya Prabandham, Nalayira Divya Prabandham, because it amounts to the number 4000. It is called Nal Ayiram. Nal in Tamil is 4, Ayiram is 1000, Nalayiram is 4000. It is called Nalayira Divya Prabandham. Or there is a beautiful Tamil word called Aruli Cheyal. Coming to the Azhwars, the Guru Parampara Prabhavam states that the Azhwars were born slightly before, during and after Krishnavataram. Some were born just before Krishnavataram, some were born during Krishnavataram, and some were born after Krishnavataram. This is what the Guru Parampara Prabhavam states. So it could extend between the 3500 BCE till about the 8th century CE or AD is what we all understand. So for a period of about 4000 years, in that gap is when all these Azhwars were born, is what the Guru Parampara Prabhavam states. Nevertheless, looking at the style in which the Tamil language has been used, has been deployed, the similes, the metaphors, the places which are being referred, the kings who are being referred, and the counter references, historians opine that the period of the Azhwars could anywhere range between the 5th century AD, which is 5th century CE, and the 8th century CE. In whichever case, there is no dispute about whether the Azhwars existed or not, whether they sang the praises of the Lord in chaste Tamil or not, or whether their verses are available till date or not. There is no dispute on that. It is only about the dates in which they were born, immaterial of whether they were born during Dwapara Yuga or Kali Yuga, or they were born in the first millennium AD. To us, they are devotees of the highest order whom we need to venerate, appreciate. In Tamil, it is said, Potriyuhappadum Pundiyil Kolvadum. Now getting back to the Azhwars, let me take you through the first set of Azhwars called the Mudal Azhwargal. Mudal in Tamil means the first. So the first three Azhwars are called Poigai Azhwar, Bhudattalvar, Peyalvar. Well, they are called Ayonijas. Yoni is the uterus. So we are all born from our mothers. Every animal, every mammal is born that way because of gestation, which the mother undergoes, and finally the child is born. Well, they are called Ayonijas. It means that they were not born of a mother, which is very, very tough for us to understand and accept. Nevertheless, one explanation, very simple explanation given to us is, just because we don't see, we don't realize, it doesn't mean an event or an incident had never happened. So they could have been supernatural beings who were born just like that without the association of that of a mother. Hence they were Ayonijas. The other very logical explanation given is, there are various children who are born on this earth in different geographies to parents, but are abandoned by them for a variety of reasons. The mother could be dead the very instant she gives birth to the child. That is why we have statements that come from fathers who state that just now my wife delivered a baby boy and both the child and the mother are doing well, because many women have sacrificed their lives, or probably they lose, they won't have the stamina and they die. So there are many children who are born while their mothers are dead. There are many children in various scenarios because of poverty, because of destitution, because of family circumstances, where the mother has to abandon the child. So in either case, the child is orphaned at the very birth. Then it is to the karma of the child whether the child falls into the hands of a very nice person, a very generous person, a very kind-hearted person who may want to adopt the child and bring the child as his very own child. So there are very few such great human beings. So until then, do we keep referring to such children as orphan children? No, we would rather say that they are the children of God. So that's the way we venerate orphan children, and do not use the word orphan, rather we say Deiva Kulandai. So Deiva Kulandai means that child which is the child of God. God means somebody who is divine, who is filled with divinity, who has powers that we don't have. So when these Azhwars were probably born as children, probably they were abandoned, and hence they were treated by Acharyas as the very children of God, and then thus they wish to be called as Ayonijas. This is the other explanation. So Poigai Azhwar, Bhudatta Azhwar, Pei Azhwar, they were born one day after the other. Trivonam, Sadayam, Avittam, these were the nakshatras. So they were probably of the same age, just the difference of one day, but they were born in different places. The first Azhwar, Poigai Azhwar, was born in Kanchipuram. Bhudatta Azhwar was born in Mahabalipuram, which is called as Mamallapuram. And Pei Azhwar was born in Mylapore, which is a locality in the heart of Chennai, which is the capital of Tamil Nadu. So they were born in a triangle, Mahabalipuram, Chennai and Kanchipuram, all three regions that fall under the jurisdiction of the Pallavas, which is called Tondai Nadu or Pallava Nadu. The three Azhwars were not aware of each other, they had never heard of each other. So here is one line which says that they have never heard of each other. Trayaste mithona samparka jushoba bhuvuhu. They had not known of each other. But it did so happen that all three of them wanted to have the darshan, the glimpse of Lord Trivikrama in a kshetram, in a place called as Tirukkovalur or Gopapuri, which is again closer to the town of Viluppuram in Tamil Nadu. I'm talking, say, by going by the date of historians, about 400-500 years back. We can't even imagine. Most nations didn't exist. The landmass would have existed. Did we have the United States of America as a country, or probably various kingdoms ruling 1500 years back? There would have been tribal groups. There would have been very localized native people, but we wouldn't have had a huge civilization, a civilization where there are languages, and where there is literature, and where there is architecture, and where there are art forms, and where there is devotion, where there is singing, where there is dancing. How sophisticated the Oriental civilizations were is a topic that we could research upon. So these three Azhwars wanted to visit the abode of Lord Trivikrama in Gopapuri. So they all left. While the first Azhwar came, he sang praises of the Lord's serpent couch. He said, Sendral Kudayam, Irundal Singasanamam, Nindral Maravadiyam, Neelkadalul Yendrum Punayam, Manivilakkam, Poom Pattam, Pulgumanayam, Tirumalukku Aravu. While describing Adisesha or Ananta, he states, if the Lord wishes to walk, he becomes the umbrella. If the Lord wishes to sit, he curls himself so that he could become, and as he coils himself, he could become the seat of the Lord. And as the Lord wishes to walk, he coils in such a way that the Lord can insert his feet so that he becomes the padukas. If the Lord wishes to sleep, he becomes the couch. And if the Lord wishes to have a pillow, he breathes in air so that he can give a swollen portion as the pillow. And as the snake tries to shed its skin, that skin, the one that's shed, becomes the very blanket to the Lord. And if the devotees wish to have a glimpse of the Lord, the 2,000 shining gem-like eyes of Adisesha become the light. And if the Lord wishes to have some good fanning service done to himself, he looks at Adisesha, and Adisesha brings his tongues out, and as the tongue goes up and down, that becomes the fan. So be it the fan, the light, the pillow, the blanket, the couch, the seat, or the very footwear, Adisesha serves in every possible way to the Lord, thereby indicating to every devotee such as us, what we are doing is very little. Keep serving the Lord. So this message is conveyed by Poigai Alvar. As he finished his darshanam of Trivikrama in the Kshetram, he goes further. And as he goes further, he sees a beautiful abode of the Lord. And then he goes further, taking the blessings of the Lord and the priest. He gets in to a little passage which is called Dehali. Dehali is a little passage. He goes and rests there. He thinks he has become too tired, so let me go and rest. That very night, a few minutes after he had left the sanctum sanctorum of the temple, comes the next Alvar called Bhudat Alvar. Bhudat Alvar comes and he is amazed looking at the Lord's beauty. And then he says, how beautiful is the Lord here. Doesn't he remind me of the lords of various other kshetrams? He says, Manattullan Vengadattan Ma Kadalan. When I look at this Lord, Trivikrama of Tirukkovalur, I am reminded of the Lord of Tirumala, who is nothing but the personification of dark clouds that represents that there is going to be a rainfall in abundance, and here it's going to be the rainfall of mercy. Manattullan Vengadattan Ma Kadalan. Isn't he the one who goes and reclines on the milky ocean? Mattum Ninaipariya Neel Arangattullan. Isn't he the one who goes and reclines in the Kshetram of Srirangam near Tiruchirappalli? Yennai Palarum Devadi Devan Yenappaduvan Munnurunal Mavai Pilanda Madan. Isn't he the one who incarnated as Lord Krishna to establish dharmam, dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So here, Bhudat Alvar celebrated the beauty of the Lord. He goes on further to state, Pagal kandeen Narananai kandeen, Kanavil mihak kandeen, Mindavanai meyye mihak kandeen, Untigalum nemi, Ulitigalum shevadiyan, Vantigalum shodhi vadivu. As this Lord brings about the ability of the Lord to dispel darkness, nescience, and to bring in knowledge, he goes on further to describe the Lord of Kanchipuram. Well, in the year 2019, a lot of you devotees from the Bay Area and elsewhere in the United States would have even flown to India to have a darshanam of an event that occurs once in 40 years. This is the emergence of Atti Varadar, believed to be the original deity, the Moola deity of Kanchipuram, believed to be the deity that is made of the Atti Maram, of the fig tree. In binomial nomenclature, we call it religiosa. And it is this deity that is believed to have come from the sacrificial altar, fire, called Ashwamedham, performed by Brahma. So, to commemorate that event, Atti Varadar was placed for darshanam to devotees world over. World over, people came to Kanchipuram. And this Divyadesham is so very close to the hearts of Vaishnavas that Garuda Seva of Kanchipuram is very popular. Muthuswami Dikshitar, one in the Trinity, states, Kalidosha Haratirtha Prabhava Guru Guhadinatam Kapila Shukadi Sanuta Garuda Vaharudham Varadaraja Mupasmahe. So he says, Varadaraja Mupasmahe, I celebrate Lord Varadaraja, Garuda Vahadi Rudham, the one who comes atop the celestial vehicle called Garuda. Well, that great kshetram called Kanchipuram, which is one amongst the 108 Divyadeshams venerated by the Azhwars, doesn't have even over 2 Azhwars singing it. There is only one Azhwar who sings it. And not in all the 4,000 verses, just in one verse, probably in some of the reality shows. We have the unexpected entry of a candidate in the last episode, right? It's called the trump card entry or something. So similarly, we have just one verse that is being sung on this Lord, and that is attributed to Bhudattalvar, the second of the Mudal Azhvargal. He says, Attiyuran Pullayurvan Animaniyin Tuttisher Nagathin Mel Tuilvan Mutti Marayavan Makadal Nanjundan Tanakkum Irayavan Yengal Piran. Isn't he the one who grants mukti, moksham? The other meaning to Mutti Marayavan, Mutti, Mu is 3, Ti is fire. Mutti is 3 kinds of fire. It is said that a grihastha in Sanatana Dharma upon marriage should perform Agnihotra, the sacrifice through fire, thrice a day. So it's called Treta Agni. So 3 kinds of fire should be invoked by the householder is what Sanatana Dharma ordains. Well, there may not be too many Agnihotris today, but that's how our ancestors were. So Mutti Marayavan, he is the one who is the leader of all the sacrificial fires, is what is being said in this particular verse. Let me now take you to Peyalvar, because Bhudattalvar, after having sung praises of Lord Trivikrama, goes back and he says, he feels, let me take some rest, and he goes to the same Dehali, that same way, Ale, where the first Azhvar, Poigai Azhvar, was resting, he was reclining. The moment Poigai Azhvar sees the incoming Bhudattalvar, he invites him and says, Sir, why don't you sit? There is place for one to sleep. Well, 2 people can sit. Both of us, let us sit. Bhudattalvar said, you're so friendly to me, Poigai Azhvar, let us both sit. And they started discussing about the unique characteristics of the Lord as Paramatma, and in his incarnations such as Matsya Avataram, Kurma Avataram, Varaha Avataram, Rama Avataram and Krishna Avataram. They were having a very, very productive, fruitful and a very spiritual discussion. Meanwhile, the third Azhvar called Peyalvar, he reached the Sanctum Sanctorum of Trivikrama. He had a darshan of the Lord and he sang praises of the Lord's beauty. Kannum Kamalam, Kamalame Kaitalamum, Mannalanda Padamum, Mattavaye Yennin, Karumamugil Vannan, Karkadal Neervannan, Tirumamani Vannan, Tesu. So he remarks at the Lord's beauty where he says every angam of the Lord is comparable to that of lotus. Understanding the beauty of this Lord was the pinnacle of Peyalvar's devotion. Peyalvar goes about to describe in another verse, Tal Shadayum, Neelmudiyum, Onmazhuvum, Chakkaramum, Shoolaravum, Ponnanum Tondrumal, Shoolum, Tirandarivipaayum Thirumalai Mel Yendaikku Iranduruvum Ondrai Isaindu. While describing the Lord of Tirumala Tirupati, he states, On one side I see the radiant crown of the Lord. On the same side I see the golden thread, pon non. On that side he says, I see the discus, chakaram. Well, on the other side I see the matted locks, tar shadai. I see the maru, the axe. I see shur aravu. I see the snake. So on one side is the crown, the discus and the golden thread. The other side is the matted locks, is the snake and the axe. To me, both of them represent or seem as one, he states. There, the commentator, the famed commentator on the entire Nalayara Divya Prabandham called as Periyavachan Pillai remarks 800-900 years back. He says, this describes the Sharira Shariri Bhavam. Like I have my body, the Pancha Bhautika Shariram, the 5 element based material body, and in this gross body is housed the Jivatma, the sentient matter. And this Jivatma shall always command through the mind to the body that raise your hand, Dushyanth, bring it down. So as it goes up, the mind says, so the body acts and then comes down. So the one that controls from the within through various other senses is the Jivatma. So Jivatma is the Shariri, that which is inside the Shariram is Shariri. So Narayana, who is the Paramatma, is the ultimate. So Lord Shiva, Vaishnavanam Aham Shambhuhu, while describing Lord Shiva's beauty, Nayanmar says, Kunitta Puruvamum Kovvai Sevvayit Kumitchirippum Panitta Sadayum Pavalam Pol Meniyit Pal Venneerum Inittamudaya Edutta Purpadamum Kanapetral Manitta Piraviyum Venduvade Immanilatte. How beautiful is Lord Shiva when he dances. The waters of Ganga also dance with him. So does Goddess Parvati, who has taken half his body, also dance with him. So that Lord Shiva becomes the typical example for a person, a devotee who aspires and meditates upon Paramatma. So a person who performs penance or austerities is always in matted locks, and as he engages in rigorous penance, the snakes go around him, and he always has a maru, the axe, as a weapon to protect himself. So this aspiring devotee who is in the state of austerities or penance with matted locks, with the axe, with snakes around him, aspires to have Lord Vishnu as his Antaratma, who has got the radiant crown, who has got the discus to protect his devotees, and the punnan, which is the golden thread, the indication of the zenith of knowledge that he has attained and also helps the devotees of his attain. So this is the essence of this particular Pasuram. Now, Peyalvar, after the darshanam of Trivikrama, goes to the same causeway, the same ale, the same Dehali. There, initially, Poigayalvar was reclining. He made space for Bhudattalvar, where both of them sat. The moment the both of them saw another Vaishnava called Peyalvar coming, they said, Peyalvar, you may join us. It is raining outside. So you may join us. All three of us can stand together. There is space for all three of us to stand together. They all stood. Suddenly, as they were discussing about the essential characteristics of the Lord, they were surprised that they felt that a force was trying to squeeze itself with the three of them. The first Alvar said, I am quite surprised. Who could this be? Because when a Vaishnava, a devotee, meets another Vaishnava, which is the essence of Nama Sankirtana movement, you are all great devotees and followers of Jnanananda Swami, Haridas Giri. So many devotees were born in Bharatadesham. Of course, there are many devotees in the other countries as well. So they all propagated Nama Sankirtana. Why is Nama Sankirtanam important? Well, remember, Nama Sankirtanam alone is not important. We should learn Vedam, we should learn Prabandham, we should learn Shlokas. But not at